Exodus chapter 3, verses 1 through 5. We're going to talk about having barefoot religion. So, now Moses was keeping the flock of his father-in-law, Jethro, the priest of Midian, and he led his flock to the west side of the wilderness, and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. And the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a flame of fire out of the midst of a bush. He looked, and behold, the bush was burning, yet it was not consumed. And Moses said, I will turn aside to see this great sight, why the bush is not burned. When the Lord saw that he turned aside to see, God called to him out of the bush, Moses, Moses. And he said to him, Here I am. Then he said, Do not come near. Take your sandals off your feet, for the place on which you are standing is holy ground. And I know in some cultures taking your feet off or your shoes off is very important, but it's not really something that shows up anywhere else in the Bible. It's always makes me wonder, like why is this here? And I finally had a good idea, it sounds like a good idea to me anyway, about why it matters. And to me, it's when God comes to meet us, He doesn't want us to have our man-made things separate us from what He's done. So He doesn't want us to distance ourselves from what He's done, provided for us. And it's when God comes to meet us. Because, there's Tower of Babel where man tried to go reach God, and you can't reach God. God has to come to you. But also, when God comes to meet us, He gets to set the rules. If you go forward a bit to Exodus 34. Verses 34 and 35. And again, whenever Moses went in before the Lord to speak with him, he would remove the veil until he came out. And when he came out and told the people of Israel what he was commanded, the people of Israel would see the face of Moses, that the skin of Moses' face was shining. And Moses would put the veil over his face again until he went in to speak with him. And again, there's that removing that separation between Moses and God. To me, it's the sandals are the start of, I'm having a very direct relationship with you. You're not going to put something between us. You're going to, I'm coming to meet you and I want you here. So then the question that really comes after that is, what do we use to keep ourselves separated from God? Because we know that God is spirit, so it's not the physical. But some things that I thought of is, first, how does God meet us? The most immediate way is in His Word. This is the direct revelation from God. This is how He comes and meets us. And one of the ways we could separate ourselves is with a preacher. We rely on a preacher to be the one who tells us what's in the Word. Could be the ceremonies we use, whether that's the service here or our own personal ones, or our routine. There's the traditions. When you go to the New Testament, they had so many traditions that were separating them even from the law that God had given them as a boundary, because they didn't want to get too close, truthfully. And because they were following those rules and not the ones that God had set, even though there was understanding between them, it pulled them away from Him, and it became about the tradition and not about the heart meeting God. The most obvious one for me is also praying for others. For obvious, you can go with Catholics who pray to saints because they want another intermediary between them and God, because they're not good enough. But that can also be here. Maybe asking someone that you think is more eloquent than you to say, pray for you. They do such a much better job. But God doesn't call us to do a good job. He calls us to a good heart and to work. But, it's all about when God comes to meet us. So what happened when Jesus came to meet us? Let's go to Luke chapter 23. 34 and 45. And this is while Jesus is on the cross. It's now about the 6th hour, and there was darkness over the whole land until the 9th hour, while the sun's light failed, and the curtain of the temple was torn in two. And that's it. Jesus came to tear it all away, because he wants us. And that was a very physical thing, but also a very symbolic thing, because that was the end of that, because the priesthood separated the people from God. And it was very clear that that's what happened. And that wasn't going to happen anymore. So you go to 2 Corinthians chapter 3. Verses 12 through 18. Since we have such a hope, we are very bold, not like Moses, who had put a veil over his face, so that the Israelites might not gaze at the outcome of what was being brought to an end. But their minds were hardened. For to this day, when they read the Old Covenant, that same veil remains unlifted, because only through Christ is it taken away. Yes, to this day, whenever Moses is read, a veil lies over their hearts. But when one turns to the Lord, the veil is removed. Now the Lord is the Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. And we all, with unveiled face, beholding the glory of the Lord, are being transformed into the same image, from one degree of glory to another. For this comes from the Lord, who is the Spirit. And then you go Hebrews 10, 19 through 22, and because of this, just verse 19 even. Therefore, brothers, since we have confidence to enter the holy places by the blood of Jesus, like he's opened every single door. He's torn away everything between us and God. And back in 2 Corinthians, it tells you, and through that, he's working on us to change us. But it's only because God has come to us that we can be there with God. I was thinking about it in the passage, like either height nor depth, nor principality. Like nothing can separate us, but we can separate ourselves. Like we can do it through choice. We can do it through our fear. And Isaiah, when he's in the throne room, he is scared because he knows that he's an unworthy person. But again, God didn't come to him. God doesn't come to us without power and without purpose. And that purpose is so that we can be together. Because God doesn't need to come to us to destroy us. But, once we meet Jesus, like, now we can become that living sacrifice in Romans and be transformed. And then he becomes our head. Ephesians 5:23, like Jesus is the head of the church. We are the church. And if you put something between the body and the head, they both, the body dies. Even though they're still, right there, there's something in the middle. For a human, you kill both. But then you go to 1 Corinthians 3, and now we're God's temple. We don't even have to go somewhere. We are where God comes. So how do we meet Jesus? And we meet Jesus through the simple act of baptism, where he washes away the sin that separates us. Because when God comes to us, we just have to answer. We don't accomplish anything. He brings everything that we need for him to heal us and to be part of us. So if you're ready to, if you haven't met Jesus yet, and you want to meet him through baptism, if you need prayers because you feel like you've been separated from Jesus, or if you have worries or cares, even if no one here knows exactly or has been where you are, we all know pain, and we all have compassion for each other. Jesus has compassion for us, who come always stand and sing.